Mario, what's your thought? You move the X date to June 5. Does it actually buy more time, or do the negotiators need to stay at it?
It does buy more time on the one hand, but from what we understand, at least early on with this date moving, is that the negotiators will still remain in contact throughout the weekend. I mean, it's only a few days, and we're down to the wire here, so it isn't a whole lot of breathing room. It's a
Fair enough.
Very small amount.
Yeah. So what does this mean for Congress?
So one of my reporters,
if we were going to treat it like the proper X date, how does this shift the timeline?
So one of my reporters just equated it to stoppage time in soccer. We're not talking, as Mario said, like a lot of time here. It was always going to be really, really difficult to get a full deal through the House and through the Senate, through all the procedural hurdles that need to happen before June 1st. This makes it possible to get everything through before June 5th if they keep at the negotiations and the House still comes to a vote, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Unfortunately, Congress and the administration, they've never met a deadline they don't like to butt up right against, right? So if this takes any of the pressure off of getting a deal, it could make it harder then to get it through the Senate by June 5th.
Yeah, the narrative seems to be shifting a bit. We went from progressives angry at President Biden for considering additional work requirements, budget cuts that they said would be draconian. Then it shifts to conservative Republicans, namely the Freedom Caucus, upset with what they're hearing Speaker McCarthy negotiating here at this point. The 33-member caucus sent him a letter, #HoldTheLine. The idea here, Mario, that there actually may not be dramatic spending cuts in this final agreement, that it might look a lot like President Biden's budget proposal.
Yes, that's exactly what we're saying in terms of this defense on the one hand, but then also the not being able to get the White House to concede on the welfare to work requirements as well, which is a big thing for the far right wing of the House Republican caucus.
So was this entire exercise a waste of time?
I wouldn't say it was a waste of time. I mean, they got something. They're getting something in return here. They get to say that that Biden didn't get a clean debt ceiling, raise to the debt ceiling.
And who comes out then winning? Is it Biden or McCarthy?
Well, I think earlier Megan and I were in a meeting where we were talking, and I think if McCarthy keeps his gavel, that's a win through this perilous time, right? If Biden does concede welfare to work or something along those lines and angers the progressive wing of the party, then that's a problem for him as he looks toward 2024.
I spoke today with Congressman Brian Stile, Republican from Wisconsin, serves on the Financial Services Committee, on this idea that Freedom Caucus members may vote no if they see no real budget cuts. Listen.
We knew that when we passed the Limit Save Grow Act, that at the end of the day, this would be a bill that we would have to get through the Senate and we would have to have signed by a Democratic president of the United States. I don't think anybody was lost on the idea that there would be adjustments, changes, tweaks to the bill.
That's from Sound On Bloomberg Radio, Megan. Is it the idea then that Republicans need to start getting used to the idea of compromise as part of a divided government?
So I think there are obviously Republicans who are willing to compromise here. There's going to be a phone call tonight between McCarthy and some of his top lieutenants, where I presume he'll start floating some of these, tentative decisions or tentative agreements. But as you said, the Freedom Caucus wants to hold tight. They want to hold firm to the House-passed bill that was never going to pass muster in the Senate. What McCarthy can hope for here is if he can cobble together a coalition of enough Democrats and enough moderate Republicans to vote for this. And he, at the same time, doesn't anger the Freedom Caucus folks, the conservatives, to the point that they want to go after his job.
And those Freedom Caucus members might feel like they have some momentum behind them. There was a New York Times article, and what it ended on was the former president golfing, seeing a New York Times reporter, going over that reporter and showing off his phone history, saying, I just got off the phone with the speaker, saying it's going to be very interesting. Trump has been telling them that default would essentially be better. You shouldn't give in. Does that make this vote more complicated, his presence in the Republican Party?
Absolutely, and with the caveat that he said that the debt ceiling should never be negotiated as long as he's not president. So, I mean, this is pure Trump here. But the
convenient.
But the fact that he does have Kevin McCarthy on speed dial, the fact that the House primary, Republican primary elections go through MAGA country, wherever that may be in whatever state, I mean, that does mean that former President Donald Trump does have a hold on some of this. And you heard President Biden mention as much here recently when he said that there are some folks that know that it would hurt him politically. That's an acknowledgement toward Trump's presence here.
Mm-hmm. The headlines that we're looking at, of course, could change as negotiators continue their work here, Megyn, but we're so far looking at a 2-year raise of the debt limit and spending caps that would last that duration of time here. How does this get announced? Who runs to the microphone first, Speaker McCarthy or Joe Biden?
So, it's been pretty quiet today. We haven't seen the scrums that we've seen the past couple of days. I think yesterday McCarthy was speaking every 15 minutes. I feel as though silence is often a good thing as we get to the end of the deal. We haven't heard how exactly they would announce it, but I presume we might see some kind of joint press conference if people are happy. The problem, though, of course, is will McCarthy get hurt politically if he appears on stage somewhere with the president? And the same thing goes for the president.